Hey, welcome to Breaking Bread, hosted by me, Crunk Chocolate, a show where we break verbal bread with the quote unquote enemy. Whenever Manchester City has an upcoming match, I will be here having a conversation with a supporter of City's upcoming opponent. Shout out to everybody enjoying this full episode on Patreon. You could be listening to the episode right now on YouTube or another podcast feed, and you have commercials. You're only getting 11 minutes of this. The reason why you need to subscribe to our Patreon for $6 a month, you get ad-free content, all of our episodes, and episodes specifically for Patreon. We are trying to do more things. You get discounts on our clothing store, our merchandise, all for just $6 a month. That's one pint. That is one day of coffee where you just got to brew at home. You can save somewhere and get so much more with our Patreon. Today, we have a great episode for you, Shady Gang. We're talking Champions League, the champions. We are facing Leverkusen. Shout out to our friends at 50 Plus Donor. They sit in fifth. It was very rocky at the beginning of their season. Shout out to Eric Ten Hag. Oh, we all knew that wasn't going to go well. But they have moved on. They are doing better. They're actually, again, they're in the top five. So that's a good step in the right direction. We have our guest today that can help us learn about them, their season, the players, why Echeverry has not played, like what is going on with all of that. Shady Gang, give it up for the first time. Daniel, how are you?
Hello, Crank. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure. I'm not that well, but doesn't matter for today. I'm glad to be here, and I'll give my best to make this podcast episode as best as I can.
We appreciate that. You will be fantastic. We, again, just I know my fan base is thrilled to not just have to listen to me for 35 straight minutes. Whenever you can change it up and bring some new energy to the episode, that is always great. We're going to start first, excuse me, with moves made in the summer. Shout out Big Money. We know the whole Florian Wirtz transfer saga, which naturally I'll talk to you about that in a moment. Also, Frimpong both going to Liverpool. Wirtz rated very highly. There were moments where it seemed like he was going to come to City, and I was like, I'm a Musiala person. I would much rather that happen, but it became very obvious he was just going to stay at Bayern, which was unfortunate. He brought in Ryan Shirky, so all has ended well. 100 Shirky cost 100 million less than Florian Wirtz, and Wirtz is still struggling at Liverpool. Granit Xhaka, being able to get 15 million for him from Sunderland is amazing business, but been able to pull up and bring some players in of your own. Malik Tillman, the American, shout out to him. Jarrell Kwanzaa. It's weird how he sent a couple players to Liverpool, brought in a player from Liverpool, and then players like Ben Seguir, I'm actually a pretty big fan of. Loic Bade, I was hoping he could figure out some things, and with more Premier League connection, Mark Flecken, who had driven us crazy quite often whenever Man City would play Brentford. So he's a very good shot stopper, in my opinion. Out of all the moves, actually, let's start here. How did you feel about Florian Wirtz leaving for Liverpool? I mean, it's great money. Was there any world where you thought he would end up staying?
In the summer, no. I was prepared for that move. What I wasn't prepared was the huge fluctuation in the whole squad in Leverkusen this year. I don't know if you are aware of our past years, because we are just coming out of the best period of our entire lives.
Yeah, with
Being
Xabi Alonso.
champion the first time in your life is something you will never forget, and it's not repetitive. The second time won't be as intense as the first one was. So it's, We are in Leverkusen very grateful, and we are as settled as we can, knowing that we are not a world club. The club means the world for us, but we know that in the global perspective, we are not as huge as, for instance, City or other clubs. And I was prepared that Florian will leave our club, but I wasn't prepared for this rep in last summer. I think in total, I just counted before we started that we sold 22 players
Mm.
and we bought 21 players.
Oh wow.
So the rep in the past summer was as huge that the day the transfer window closed, we also lost our coach, Erik Ten Hag, former menu coach. He's I can tell you some insights later on, but
Ooh.
the moment the transfer window is closed, I felt dizzy. I was so overwhelmed by all these news coming in, all these legends. The players in Leverkusen that
Mhm.
became champion in the season 23-24 are now legends. Every child, every adult, any old person in Leverkusen who's fan of our club can name all the players from the champion season where we won the league and we won the cup, by the way, and we played Europa League final. So all of us know the players, and now of them are still 10 left. Just one summer after the championship,
Wow.
10 players are left. We sold the rest. Hincapié to Arsenal, you forget to mention, for instance.
Oh
Also,
yeah.
60 million more income for us. So in total, I think we gained 400 something million. It seems like a small amount for English clubs, but it's an absolute record for German club. We
Yeah.
made a transfer fee income record in the German Bundesliga. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So
I
there's not much left, and the team that's now left in Leverkusen is absolutely new. I'm still struggling with the numbers of the players sometimes. It's quite weird. I don't, and you asked especially for words. I think we lost the best player that ever played under the cross of Bayer in the history of the club.
mm,
There were plenty who were mentioned as this, but I think what made Florian Wirtz was magic. There were moments nobody in the stadium, regardless of age and perception and expectation, will ever forget these moments. And in that quantity of moments, nobody else in our club ever managed to achieve that. So just talking about this last summer makes me feel dizzy again.
oh, yeah, that run of unbeaten games that uh, Leverkusen were going on, that really, that with mixed in with Xavi, uh, the world really was paying attention to Leverkusen. Like people were very much locked in, uh, and it wasn't just because of the manager. You definitely had some ballers of players. Fremprong is a part of Man City's academy in the CFG, so that was also a player that I like low key rooted for. Or everybody's tired of Bayern winning every single year, let alone them bring in Harry Kane, who like I'm not a fan of. Like screw that guy. So was really rooting for Leverkusen. And yeah, unfortunate that the streak ended at the Europa League final because really we're having kind of like this like Cinderella run, this like underdog run that no one really saw coming, and I could only imagine the pressure that was felt from the manager and the players that day of the Europa League final because that would have been like the perfect topping to a season, and it's just every moment, no, every momentum like stops and shifts. So it's still plenty to be very happy about, and I wasn't aware that there was that much movement on the squad. That is absolutely wild, and it makes sense that it has taken a bit of time for the team to kind of situate itself. That it struggled early on in the season because their players still kind of like learning their system and everything, and that's always going to be tough, especially with a new manager. Which we can move on to that. I mean, I guess. No, actually, well, when we go talk to players, I have some questions about players because I want to hear more about this Eric Ten Hag situation. He much maligned in the Premier League. as a City fan, naturally, we laughed at every single thing that happened at Manchester United, anything relating to Eric Ten Hag. I wasn't sold as him as a manager, but he always backed his team. He always had this like strong belief, even though everything, the whole world was like burning around him. But yet he was like, "We're fine. We're gonna get things figured out," and that always kind of confused people. So when he left and went to Leverkusen, I felt bad for Leverkusen because you go from having this person, you have Zabi who has all of this, the word aura. You know, a lot of people like he just has this energy about him that he can fix anything, or his tactics. Him as a player, obviously, also, so that helps. He seems a lot more fun and bright, like a good conversation to have with. And then you go to Eric Ten Hag, and he kind of is like a buzzkill. He's not the funniest guy. Uh, and his tactics aren't, you don't really know what type of football he wants to play. So I felt like you were going from a manager with Zabi who had this clear direction, someone you can follow, to Eric Ten Hag, or someone who has so many question marks about who he is and what he represents. Where am I guess, wrong in my beliefs? Like when you found out Eric Ten Hag was going to be your manager, how confident in him and in the squad were you when you found out?
Three things. I think one of the reasons for this huge rap in the last summer was Erik ten Hag. For
Yeah.
instance, I think Granit Xhaka, he was feeling very well here because part of his family is living close by, like 60 kilometers, which is nothing of a distance
Yeah.
in regard to, for instance, moving to England. So I think he left our club because of Erik ten Hag. Second, Erik ten Hag was